Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge, and if you didn't know, this is a show for rock and metal fans. And if you're wondering why some bands don't make this list, it's because they're not rock or metal enough. And actually, the general rule of thumb on these killer albums from the 80s are, if you made it onto the battle jacket, you'll make it potentially into our list. Although there might be a bit of controversy on this top 12 that we've got today. So, welcome back. Evening, guys. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hey, they look happy. That's cool. They might not be happy when they see which records end up winning this. We've curated 12 of the best albums from 1981, and this episode is called Killer Albums from the PowerAge 1981. So just in case you can't read, you're now, or you're listening to this.
Or you're listening to it.
Yeah, you're listening to it, then you know what we're going to be talking about. So we've got a bunch of albums. We've created 12 of the best. We'll cover off the best of the rest, and then we'll have a countdown to our top 5. So really, really looking forward to that. Just a footnote before we go into the 12. Yes, we are going to do a compilation album special, but the rules for this are no compilation albums, no live albums. So if you're wondering where No Sleep to Hammersmith is in this list, sadly, that's been shelved for another episode. But I've got high hopes for that when we do a live special. So without further ado, it's actually me starting off, I think, tonight, Gav. So if we can go to the first album of our Dirty Dozen, and it is, of course, the mighty Denim and Leather. And is there a better patch or back patch to put on the back of your battle jacket than that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at that. I think that's a later copy, Gav, right?
Oh, yeah. It's only 10 years ago or something. Yeah.
Mine's the original.
Beautiful, though, isn't it?
It's lovely. So, Saxon have been quite prolific. If you'd watched the episode that we did in 1980, they'd released a couple of huge albums in that year and then followed up with this album. Some say this was the last great album they ever made. I said some say. Jammy's brother.
Certainly not Jammo.
Anyway, couple of really big pullouts from this album. Princess of the Night, which I actually never knew was about a train until recently. That's really odd, isn't it?
You're kidding me.
Frankly, but Never Surrender, Out of Control, Play It Loud. Of course, the iconic And the Band's Played On about Donington Monsters Rock. Absolutely fantastic. And then finishing with Denim and Leather. The one thing, if you remember us commenting on Wheels of Steel, how cool Saxon looked on the back of Wheels of Steel. My, look at that. There you go. That's heavy metal. Right? They look absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. So that's the first one. Anything else you guys want to add on Denim and Leather?
Just for me, for me, we know I'm a bit of a Saxon fan. But this is the ultimate new wave of British heavy metal record for me. It's just massive, and it was they were so in touch with the fans. All these songs are they're brilliant. They're anthems, and I can't believe that we've got the first one out of the curated 12. We're almost putting that's, I'm guessing, going to be the number 1 record. So I'm surprised we put that this early, but we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, there's no strict rules to when stuff goes where.
No.
And
It might be number 1.
Might be.
Good chance.
It's a contender, definitely. It's the last one with Pete Gill on drums as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is indeed.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The tour, the Denim and Leather tour, was the live album, wasn't it? And that was Nigel Glockler. So
yeah. Okay, excellent.
I pick as well.
Let's go to the next album. I hope I picked the right one up. I haven't. It's like a well-oiled machine. This. So the next one is.
He was run better.
Unoiled machine.
Arguably Whitesnake's best ever album. Cover work's amazing. Again, some absolutely fantastic songs. My favourite song on the album is actually Child of Babylon. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Agreed.
But Marsden, Moody, Coverdale, I mean, that was the holy trinity of Whitesnake, in my opinion. Absolutely fantastic. This is my first press. I think Gav's got that as well, with a nice little merch sheet. Some really fun stuff there, which is brilliant. You can pick this up at record fairs, probably for a tenner. In most fairs, and probably negotiate it down to 7 if you're lucky. But it is a great album. I think an album of its time. Just some really good funky R&B songs like Hot Stuff. There's the Don't Break My Heart Again with Mr. Lord on the keyboards, just doing his stuff. It's just a great album. And of course, what more do you want at the end of side 1 than Wine, Women and Song? And something that we've often jested about in terms of that's what we're up to tonight. We're off for Wine, Women and Song. So that's the second of my offerings. Whitesnake, come and get it. Brilliant album if you haven't got it. Anything you want to add on that, guys?
Well, when the band come in on after the honky tonk piano at the beginning of Wine, Women and Song, and the band pile in, that used to be one of our favourite moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My
favourite Whitesnake song of all time. Amazing.
I remember I first heard that. I wasn't a massive bluesy Whitesnake fan, but I remember that at school. I remember, Gav, you playing that to us.
I did play it a lot.
I
played it to me.
I traded my Thin Lizzy to you, and you were like, oh, and you were playing me the Whitesnake, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's different. I liked it a lot, and that really takes me back. But Don't Break My Heart Again for me was a bang. I love that.
Hit single that was.
It was.
Was there a better line than "Baby, you can kiss my ass"? Yes, indeed.
They had a load of funny lines because "Would I Lie to You's got some weird lyrics, shall we say?
And for us at that age, it was perfect, wasn't it? We're 12. Yeah. We're 11, 12 at this stage, and it's like, oh my god, that's so cool. But yeah,
I think
don't give a toss. It didn't in Wine, Women and Song, and we thought that was risky at the time.
Yes.
Talking of risky, did you know that the Americans and Canadians changed the album cover?
No.
Yeah, they censored it. They called it censored it because the mouth they thought looked suggestive.
Okay, yeah.
A lady's parts,
which it probably did.
Yeah, again, that flew over our heads at 12. But
yeah.
If you look at the American version, it's just red.
Okay, I just looked red.
Okay, cool. Well, that's Wine, Women in Song, and the fantastic Come and Get It. I think actually Whitesnake were touring with AC/DC on this album as well, potentially in Europe, and they got some great reviews at the time. Cool. And that's no mean feat, supporting AC/DC, which is a brilliant segue to the next record, which is, of course, for me, this is Mutt Lange's masterpiece.
Indeed.
Is there a better produced album than this? I'm not sure there is. It is absolutely perfect in terms of the production. There's some nice gatefold, fantastic picture. Gav's got one as well. I've got a Malaysian import over there somewhere, but I'm not going to bore you with that. But it's quite funky because it isn't gatefold. You just pull it out and it's on the inner cover. Which
I remember that. Yeah, I've got a signed version as well.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, excellent. What can you say about this album? For those about to rock, Evil Walks. I mean, that's got to be a classic Halloween track. Evil Walks, brilliant. Spellbound. There's another one. Absolutely stunning. Spine-tinglingly brilliant. I used to love this album. I actually had it on cassette originally, on original cassette. I think this was the first AC/DC album I bought. It was the first AC/DC album I bought that was an official copy as opposed to someone taping it onto a tape for me. Absolutely brilliant. And there are lots of other classics on there as well. Yeah, a whole bunch of a couple of singles came on the back of this album. What was interesting about those, Gav, was the single covers were different to the 12-inch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is quite cool. Yeah, so the 12-inch covers and the singles were different.
Oh, wow. Which, didn't know that.
I thought was quite interesting. And you can get in a bit of a muddle if you're trying to collect those because you're not sure what you're buying half the time. But hey ho. But again, another album that you can find on in record fairs. So anything that anybody wants to add on for those about to rock?
Go on then.
Inject the Venom and COD for me were the two standouts, which shows what a strong album it is. That they're two songs that you didn't mention that were my two favourites, and they just
COD. Yeah.
Well, for me, this is Brian Johnson's pinnacle with AC/DC. I think it beats Back in Black. It's a very controversial thing to say, but I think it's a much better album. There isn't a bad song on this album. It's the best guitar sound that I think they managed to create on this album. Phil Rudd goes nuts on this album. It's the best drumming he's ever done. And Cliff Williams is all over the place as well. It's an absolutely brilliant record from start to finish. There is not a bad song on this album. It's fantastic. And again, to mention Night of the Long Knives is another one which nobody's talked about.
Yeah.
Brilliant song. Snowballed. I mean, you can say every single one of these songs are absolutely immense.
Brilliant. And sounds as good today as it did back in the day. Sounds absolutely fantastic.
And what a beginning as well, with the little guitar at the beginning and then building up into For Those About to Rock. What a fantastic start to the album. It's just so good.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Well, there's my three. So let the controversy begin. Over to you, Gaff.
Yeah, this probably is controversial, but hear me out before you throw me out. The music from The Elder. So big Kiss fan when I was at school, primary school this is. And so was into Live 2, and me and my mate Neil used to listen to it when we were so very young. But I've been waiting to buy a Kiss album, a new Kiss album out of the shops, and this came along, and it's kind of weird. It's the first Kiss album where they're not on the cover, so that was kind of strange. Is this really the new Kiss album? I was 12. I was quite proud of buying a Kiss album when I was 12. It's the first album with Eric Carr on drums. Ace was halfway out the door, sadly, but his contributions to this album are brilliant. Dark Light and Escape from the Island. Yeah. As we've mentioned on a previous pod, the record company changed the track listing to have more rocky songs up front, but if you buy it now, you get it in the proper order. They re-enlisted Bob Ezrin. He did the Destroyer album for them, which obviously was a huge success and kind of had a concept. They wanted to be accepted by the mainstream press, respected, and Ezrin had just done The Wall for Pink Floyd. So they thought, he's our man, let's give him a call. And they did this massively overblown concept album. I think it's great. I listened to it again today. It's great. I may have a small
Absolutely
problem.
Brilliant.
I've got about 8 of them. And they're all slightly different. There was only one single off the album, which I've also got here, which is A World Without Heroes. And it's just a great album. If you forget it's Kiss and just listen to it. Some people don't like the high vocals on Paul's high vocals, but I'm so used to it, it doesn't bother me anymore. But that again sounds great. They've got the orchestra on there. They've got the brilliant production, the same as The Wall. I know you guys have got some thoughts about it as well.
Well, I think it's one of Kiss's best albums, to be honest with you. It's in my top 3 Kiss albums of all time. It might be purely because it was only the second Kiss album you introduced me to after Destroyer. But, we were listening to it in the first year at school for forever. Absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that Gene actually sings on this album. His singing on this album is top notch. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Double bass drumming on a Kiss album for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often in Kiss, but yeah, it's actually on.
And the first bit of drumming you ever taught me, and only you.
Yeah. The intro thing. Yeah.
So it was a concept album, and Gene's made no secret of his love for the Who, and I wonder whether he'd been heavily influenced around Quadrophenia, Tommy, McVicar, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Good
Maybe
point.
This came 10 years too late.
I wonder if Kiss had done a concept album. Was it the fact it was a concept album, or was it the fact of what the content of the concept album? If they'd have done 12 Kiss songs on it and actually be Kiss, then someone like me that really loved Kiss might have thought it's awesome. Instead,
no, you're right. The songs are very different as well.
Sorry, I had a lot narrower. Idea of music back then. If this had come out, like the last 10 years, I opened up my views on music. But at the time, I think
you don't like the monks chanting, and
I would have thought Utter Pony. Yeah, I'd have thought it would have been Utter Pony, and I wouldn't have given it the time of day. I'd have been listening to
your words. You didn't.
I didn't. I had Denim and Leather playing at full blast. I was playing it loud. I was setting the spirit free. This didn't do any of that for me. So
yeah, fair enough.
It's a no from me. Dill, was it a yes from you or a no from you at the time? Because you were a big Kiss fan.
I like Kiss, but I think I've mentioned on one of the other pods, I probably came to Kiss a bit later than some of the other guys.
Right.
look, it's all right. But I think my thoughts on it are they were trying to replicate what the Who had done 10 years earlier, and it was probably a bit too late. It was wrong time, wrong place. And to your point, Gav, yeah, they're probably the wrong group doing it. So
yeah.
But actually, you take it in isolation, it's not a bad album.
I mean, I remember hearing, I think World Without Heroes, is that on it?
Yeah.
And that on the Kiss Unplugged, MTV Unplugged. I think I remember seeing that on there, and it fitted in really well as an acoustic number in an acoustic set. It sounded really good. I might be wrong on that. Someone can tell me.
No, I think it is on there.
Right.
Yeah, but in isolation, that track was okay in that setting. But now at the time, not for me.
Anyway, that's Kiss.
And the video with Gene crying at the end probably didn't go down too well with the rivet heads.
Or the Earth Dogs.
So this is probably a little bit more up your alley, young Jamo. This is the second album from our faves, Def Leppard. And they kicked it up a gear by working with the mighty Mutt Lange, one of my favourite producers. And he was fresh. He was having a purple patch around this time. Obviously done Back in Black. Obviously previously done Highway to Hell. Foreigner 4. The guy was on fire at this moment in time. So Joe...
And for those about to rock, of course.
And for those about to rock. He did that after this, apparently. Same year, but after. So yeah, Joe has said in interviews that it's no mistake that it sounds like Highway to Hell. That's what they got Mutt for, you know. And they were badgering him about where the mics were and what amps did they use and what pedals did they use, and they just wanted to rip off that sound, which I think they achieved pretty well. It does sound a lot like a kind of an earlier, rougher Mutt Lange production, and it's blooming great because of it. I really love this album. Later on, it got more muttified, if you remember, because they re-released a remix of Bringing on the Heartache with a kind of a piano or keyboardy part and way more American commercial radio stuff. And they added Me and My Wine, which those two songs, those remix versions, were the first time they had Phil playing guitar, because young Pete was on his way out. Had a bit of a row in the studio with Mutt Lange, something to do with bevies. That's a more recent picture disc release of it.
Record store day.
This is a curious thing though. If you want to hear what the songs would have been like without Mutt Lange's input, they played a bunch of them on the tour beforehand, and this is a record that's got a recording from our
record
hallowed
release.
Yeah, a hallowed Oxford, New Theatre as it was then Oxford Apollo, and now New Theatre again. But there's a load of songs on here that were the original versions of the songs that ended up on High and Dry with different names, taken riffs and moved them around. You know, obviously the band had a lot of input too, but what Mutt has done to those embryonic versions turned them into classics. The boy needs a medal. Got anything to add, boys?
Yeah, just that live record. For anyone that's only listening to this, not seeing it, is it called? What's it called again? Is it When the Walls Come Tumbling?
Yeah. Sorry, listeners. When the Walls Come Tumbling Down. New Theatre, Oxford, 26th of April, 1980.
Yeah, and that was a record store release again. Record store day release. Was that last year? I think.
A couple of years ago.
Years ago. Yeah.
Me and Gaps were there.
I think it's probably on Spotify. To be fair.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
but that is a really good listen. Anyone that's really into, if I haven't picked up on that, but for me, for High and Dry, in my notes I put it was so much more ballsy than I love their first record, but this is so much more ballsy, and they really have got that DC sound. But when you listen to Mutt, he's so immense, and when he goes forward, when you see where he goes with Pyromania and Hysteria, this is so raw. It's amazing that Mutt had this. You know what I mean? That he was still at this point that he was actually doing this with Def Leppard. I love it. It's a great record.
Anything else? Anybody else?
Well, I didn't come to this album until about 1987, and I listened to it for the whole summer of that while I was going out with a girl. I listened to it all the time, along with Skyscraper by Dave Lee Roth. They were the two albums of my summer of 1987. And fantastic album. Switch 625, brilliant, which they played live this year, which was bloody awesome.
That's good. That's a very good point. Should have mentioned that. Brings a tear to your eye when you see Steaming Steve Clark. Yeah.
Great to have that back in the set, and what a surprise for a track
It
like
was.
that.
It was a great surprise. Brilliant.
Okay.
Well.
So for old Leppard fans, this could be, or probably is, certainly in my view, this is their PowerAge. So for die-hard fans, many believe this is their best offering and the best album they ever did. I would tend to agree.
Definitely the rockiest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
My third pitch is Black Sabbath Mob Rules. Now, we know we had it in 1980 as well. So this time, bit of a lineup change because Bill Ward is left the band on the tour, the previous tour. So they enlisted Vinny Appice to join. I think he was a friend of Dio. So then we had the tables turned and 2 Americans in the band. It's a classic album. I mean, there's some songs on here that it just, in the rock pantheon forever. Sign of the Southern Cross being one of them, Mob Rules being another. There's some epic songs on this bad boy. This is a recent re-release with a bunch of extra stuff. There's Live at Hammersmith on here. Vinyl. We said we'd mention him a lot, and we will, because this was a Martin Birch production, fresh off Killers. Just finished doing Killers, and then did this. Flew to LA to record Mob Rules. I mean, the guy's CV is just out of this world. The one single, I think, which was "Turn Up the Night."
Yeah,
I don't know why I've got it, but there you go. Lonely is the word on the B side. Yeah, classic. Anyone want to add anything to that?
Only that, I mean, this record, if you're a Dio Sabbath fan, this was massive in my house. This was a massive record. And just the title track, I remember, because that's scary as hell. 12 years old. That cover used to do me in. Jesus Christ. To me, they were like one of the heaviest bands in the world at the time. I know it sounds
that's a good point. I think I got this from my brother. Yeah,
Mob Rules is a very heavy song, isn't it?
The name as well, Black Sabbath and Mob Rules. And it was like, it was really in there. This is played very loud in a beige Cortina. I had to get in of my 19-year-old brother. I had to get in, and this would be very, very loud with the actual pre-bought proper cassette in there, full blast, graphic equalizer, and it scared the hell out of me.
Interestingly, we all went to the same school, but I lived in a different village. And the front cover never used to scare me because it used to look like the Clientele that used to go to the local pub. I thought that was perfectly normal.
You thought it was a photo of your local boozer.
Yeah. And it was.
I can just make out Peasy there.
Right, that's a great segue to you, Gappy.
Yeah, so my first offering here is the mighty second album from Iron Maiden, which is Killers. I didn't pick it up at the time. I actually picked this up in France when we were on a school trip. My dad had given me £10 to spend on stuff, and I ended up buying Killers by Iron Maiden and the freshly released Peace of Mind, also by Iron Maiden, because it was in 1983. Took them home and got barrel loads of derision from my father for bringing this sort of rubbish back into his house. Anyway, I didn't think it was rubbish, obviously. For me, this is a real improvement on the Eddie design of the first album by Derek Riggs. It's the artwork on this is fantastic. There's so many things going on in the background in the windows and stuff. It's just so great. It was the first album with Adrian Smith, and also the first album to be produced by Martin Birch, who we've also remembered for Iron Maiden. He went on to produce the next 7 or even 8 albums by Maiden. Much fatter sound on this album. The guitars sound great. Steve Harris wrote almost everything on this album. I think there's only one credit with Paul Di'Anno, which is the title track, Killers. And a lot of the stuff was written prior to the first album's release. It's the only Maiden album with 2 instrumentals on it, both of which are brilliant. It got to number 12 in the UK, but interestingly, just speaking of France, it got to number 1 in France, which is very strange. But there you go. Standout tracks for me: Murders in the Rue Morgue, Killers, Ides of March. The guitar solos in that are really great. There's a bit of controversy about that, and it being a Samson song, and there's a lot of people that know about that, and probably comment on that in the comments, please. And Rothschild, which they still play pretty much all the time. Brilliant song. Anyone else on that one?
Cool. I agree with the cover. I think it's brilliant. I mean, you stand.
Yeah, it's one of their best.
I used to try and draw that cover all the time, and then always be wondering what was going on in the houses behind. There's just so much going on in that picture. And we've mentioned before the branding of some of these bands, just iconic, incredible. Yeah, Murders of the Rue Morgue, yeah, excellent song, and Wrathchild is just stunning. So yeah, that's it for me. Good album.
I don't like to be negative, but I wasn't a Diano Maiden fan, never have been. But what I do take, I love the cover, and if ever I was going to do a series of records, I love the idea. The Killer looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I wonder if someone's going to think of that at some point.
Maybe.
Good, excellent.
What we got next? The Mighty Fair Warning, released in April 1981. It's got a rather amazing cover, which I know that one of our four doesn't actually like in the slightest. They really honed their sound with this album into being that of a stadium rock band, and it was just fantastic. A very short album, only 31 minutes long in total, but it's got some absolute stone cold classics. Unchained, Mean Street with the beginning on side one. The first guitar riff on that is probably something no one had ever heard before. Hear About It Later, again, fantastic song. But my favourite Van Halen song of all time is Push Comes to Shove, which is on side two. It's a bit of a slow burner, but it's got, for me, Eddie Van Halen's greatest ever guitar solo in it. And I can't say enough about this record. I played it again the other night, and you just can't beat it. Ted Templeman produced again, fantastic producer. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Wow,
interesting cover compared to the one we've just been talking about. And
yeah, absolutely.
Gav's not a great lover of it. I think there's a couple of brilliant. You've already referenced a couple of the songs on there, but So This Is Love, I love that song. It's got such a great groove. Dirty Movies, another great song. For me, arguably, this is their best album. I think it's brilliant. Maybe really underrated. I think it's a really great, strong rock album.
My view, I love Van Halen, massive Van Halen fan. And whenever like a cover like that, it's utter shit. It's rubbish. Rubbish.
So there's two of us that don't like the cover.
To me, it felt like they could do what they want. It felt to me that they could do whatever they wanted to. I don't know, but I always compare. I look at their first six and I look at Maiden's, and there's some bands that have just got a set of records on the trot that are just out of this world, and they transcend anything else that anyone would ever do through production and everything. But Van Halen didn't have what Maiden had, but they were fucking awesome. And it's almost like it doesn't matter. If we want to do Diver Down and we do a shittiest red with it doesn't matter what we do with the cover. The music is so different and so superb, and it's so ahead of their time. We will do what we want. We will play solos when we want, and we'll do whatever we like. And that's what
the thing is with the cover. For me, I always thought it was a bit of a pastiche on some of the songs. You know, you got One Foot Out the Door with a guy on the bottom left. You got Mean Streets with a being beaten up on the street there. That's what I always thought it was about.
Yeah. Well, keeping the theme of terrible covers, let's get on to the next record.
You cannot say that's a terrible cover. That's a Hypnosis cover, for God's sake. They did so
I
many
would be
covers.
right. If I was in a room looking
virtually
at
all of UFO's albums in the 70s by the same Art Nouveau group. Rainbow were just one of the bands, along with Motorhead, which is a bit of a juxtaposition for somebody, really, isn't it? Rainbow and Motorhead were your first two favourite bands. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely adore this album. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's got classical music on it. It's got Richie Blackmore doing everything that you could possibly ask for on the guitar, instrumentals. Spotlight Kid is probably the best song on the album. It's got an amazing keyboard solo in it by Don Airey. It's the first album with Bobby Rondinelli on drums after Cozy Powell had left, and also the first album with Joe Lynn Turner on vocals, who took over. I think I'm right in saying
Graham Bonnet.
Graham Bonnet was Graham Bonnet was definitely down to do this album, and it was recorded in a higher register, and it was quite tough for Joe Lynn Turner to get up to some of those notes. Because he came in at such a late period of recording.
All right.
But I think it sounds fantastic. It's got another Russ Ballard single, I Surrender. I just think it's a great album. Always loved it. Played it again the other night, and I can't fault it at all. I think it's excellent.
I think it's great as well. I think there's gonna be some ribbing, but it's a great album. Actually, there's an interesting. I was looking at the sleeve today. There's an interesting fact that it was engineered. It was produced by Roger Glover.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was engineered by Flemming Rasmussen at Silent Sound Studios. Sweet Silence Studios, which is where Master of Puppets and
I was going to say Fleming rang a bell.
Yeah, so he was an engineer at this time, and a couple of years later he stepped
and
up
went on to produce Master.
Yeah,
amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, so
that's a great fact. I didn't know that.
And that's his studio.
I've got this record. It's never really floated my boat for whatever reason. I couldn't really get past I Surrender once that had finished. I didn't really continue, and I've had it years and years and years, but maybe I'll give it another go this week after we've done this. Right, let's keep the controversy going. We take controversy to a different level with the next three. Well, maybe not this one. Jamo, over to you.
Well, I'm proud. I'm more than proud. I have a Thin Lizzy t-shirt on, one of many, to present Thin Lizzy Renegade. It's too easy to suddenly say, "Oh, that's not a good record." Well, then you haven't listened to it. So bloody listen to it, because it's freaking awesome. It features Darren Wharton on keyboards. But he doesn't do enough to be able to get his picture on the cover, so don't worry too much. But we know he's on the bit. He gets a mention, but he has to, because the first track, Angel of Death, he's all over it. And it's actually, I'm not a keyboards fan, but it sounds classic.
He wrote it, didn't he?
He co-wrote it,
yeah. So fair play. He had to have his name there somewhere. From the opening strains, like the first 6 songs in particular are brilliant. So honestly, I challenge anyone that's looking at that going, "Oh no, play it." The first 6 tracks especially were brilliant. My favourite couple there, No One Told Him and Leave This Town, are just pure Phil Lynott and I love them. I'll take it on board and say yes, the last 3 tracks on the record, yeah, I bought that when it came out and I loved it. Loved that single. The last 3 songs on the album, they should be on a Phil Lynott solo album. They've got that vibe. But I'm a massive fan, so say what you like. It's awesome.
Yep.
Anyone else got anything to add on Renegade?
Is it Snowy White on guitar on this one?
Yeah.
Snowy White's on lead guitar.
Yeah. Guitar. But
on album, I think he's absolutely fine. I don't think he was probably the best fit live.
Well, I think he knew that as well, didn't he?
Yeah. But it's a really polished, classy album. It's brilliant. Chris Bangaridi's producer. He always does a beefy production if you want one. And I think it still sounds good today.
Yeah, but no, I would recommend, honestly, put it on, slip it on your deck or on whatever your musical streaming service is, and you will be surprised. Cheers, that's it on that one then. Cheers, Gav.
Apparently, Phil got the name from a biker. A biker went past him in London with Renegade written on his back, and he thought, that sounds cool. So he nicked it.
Cool.
Snowy White was probably better with Roger Waters, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, he was Pink Floyd as well, like before Roger Waters.
Right. So
next one, Styx, Paradise. What's that? Look, you're yawning, Dill. Styx, Paradise Theatre features it.
It's a look of amazement, to be fair.
A look of awe at what a fantastic album it is.
American Heartbeat, which was my favourite compilation album back in the day. And this is a very special. It's a concept album about fictional opening of a theatre. So it's a bit of history. Fictional opening of a theatre in 1928, and then the subsequent close in 1956. What Styx did, though, that Kiss did something different. Kiss did a concept album. They decided to sound different to how they normally would. Styx didn't.
That is genius.
Styx actually recorded as themselves, and the songs on it's brilliant. It follows through. There's some great tracks on it. The vocals on this, if you don't already know it, you have a listen. They're absolutely awesome. I was very much into my vocals. For me, it was all about the vocal, about the singer. It was the singer, not the song. When I was this age, and I hadn't heard vocals as good as this with the backing vocals. And I used to sing along to this when I was pretending to be a lead singer. This is what I actually held my pretend mic up to and sang along to. The thing was, as you said, this was my moments away from completely metaling my health, because don't forget we've got Saxon setting the spirit free. This is what I was doing in my spare time, just on the side. But I absolutely love this record. Anyone else got any comments, Gav?
Yeah, bloody love this record.
Hang on a minute.
You might have gathered that from the grin, but yeah, I got this album pretty much when it came out, because I remember with clutching my £6 or whatever it was, going up to the record racks and seeing there was a silver sticker saying laser etched, and then there was a regular one and the laser etched version was £1 more. So I thought, sod that, I'll have to go for the cheaper one. And then I got it home, and it was the laser etched one. So I thought that was a massive win for old Gav, young Gav, in fact. Yeah, the laser etch. The joke that we have between us is it's pretty hard to find the non-laser etched version in the public, so we don't even know if there was one. But and then they followed it.
Somebody
they
else
followed it with a laser etched single.
Yeah.
You ever seen that, Jam?
Yeah, love it.
If you love West End, if you like West End theatre, you'll love this.
Well, I don't, and I still love it.
I must admit, if you love great vocals, you'll certainly love this, because Tommy Shaw's voice is past.
Well, you got three singers. You got three singers for a start. You got 3 or 4 songwriters.
That's what I mean.
Write individually, you know.
So you're backing up everything I've just said. West End theatre.
A couple of the songs do feature heavily in Rock of Ages, which I love. It's one of my favourite shows.
We all love that, don't we? It's brilliant.
I think we do.
Okay, go on.
Bit more metal, this one.
Diary of a Madman. Ozzy's second album, which for me it's much rawer, heavier, darker record. I love this one. I preferred it to the first at the time, simply because this one it blew me away. Over the Mountain, and my very favourite, which is Flying High Again. I just loved it, and it
about being in a plane, isn't it? That one.
It had
It's about being in a plane, isn't it? That one, Flying High Again.
I think it probably is.
Probably, yeah.
I think it might be.
This had such a dark side, and it was pure Ozzy, and he was such a showman. It really resonated. I thought it was brilliant. But and the song "Diary of a Madman," even now I played it the other day, obviously, and build up for this, and it's quite haunting. But it's really, really good. I just love it. I just love that, especially that song. So, for me, that's Ozzy Osbourne, "Diary of a Madman." What are your thoughts, boys?
I remember seeing this album cover at school and thinking, "What the hell?" And there were some older boys on the bus, and it was all the rumours of him biting heads off bats and dogs
around this time.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a later copy, but on red and black as well.
Oh yeah, I've got a blue one. Got it from America recently.
Yeah, I've got the original one as well, Gav. But
so have I. Yeah. There you go.
There's loads of static on that. Can't get back in.
But yeah.
Okay, excellent. Anything else that anybody wants to say about Diary of a Madman? Right, so let's go to the best of the rest, Gav.
Well, this breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart that Judas Priest didn't make the top 12, because they're one of my favourite bands.
Their album, shouldn't they?
But yeah, I mean, nut sheet. The trouble is there's some absolute timeless corkers on here, heading out to the highway.
There's 2, and that's it.
Desert Plains, Solar Angels, Don't Go, Hot Rockin'. I mean, they're not all rubbish, are they? But there's obviously a couple of real turds on here. You Say Yes being one of them. So yeah, I'm saving my Priest pitching.
Oh, there's plenty of better ones to come.
Exactly. But our American friends had an equally dull album cover, a different one to this. Y&T is a bit of a favourite for my brother's age group. They were touring the UK quite a lot at this time.
And they supported DC as well. At this 81, around 81, they supported DC, I'm sure.
And Venom was something that, not at this particular time, but a couple of years later, Gappy was waving around school and frightening the children.
I mean, look at that cover.
Venom album that was frightening the children. But anyway.
Yeah, the thing with Venom is look at the date and look at Venom. You know, you tend to think Venom are, mid to late 80s, because they were death metal, speed metal, black metal.
Black metal, in fact.
Yeah.
They were trailblazers.
But 81? Are you kidding me? Absolutely amazing. So, they went on to bigger and better things, which we may or may not touch on in later years. But they had to be in the best of the rest, just for their groundbreaking nature.
Got a few more, I think.
MSG, Jam, do you want to take that?
I'm surprised. I'll be honest. These 3 could easily have made it into the 12, because MSG, I'm still umming and ahhing about 1980 for the first record, but this record has got a couple of really good tunes on it. But it lets itself to, for me, the second side is very poor.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as good as the first album.
I think it was rushed out off the back of the first record, the first album. So, REO Speedwagon, all right. Don't give me any more pelters, but High Fidelity is an absolute banger.
It is.
It's got a couple of really well-known tracks on it, but there's a couple on there that I love. I love "Don't Let It Go" and "Out of Season." To be honest, that was nearly an instead of a Styx one. There you go.
And Journey in between there for anyone that's listening.
That sold about 89 million copies.
Yeah. And then another shocker, probably that arguably should have been in the top 12. Foreigner 4.
Yeah.
Mutt Lange had another album to do, so he just punched
Busy
out
boy.
another global hit the same period.
So I was just about to go straight to Tigers because they're setting themselves up for the Cage to come, because this Crazy Nights, it's got that fantastic cover, great artwork, and again a great logo. And for me, I love this record. It was just that bit heavier. When you go to the Cage, the next record has got all the melody, and this was just that little bit bitey, a little bit heavier. Again, I'm surprised this didn't make it into our 12.
And the mighty Jonathan Sykes.
Yeah.
And they reused the artwork for the next album with Love Potion No. 9.
Yeah.
The mighty
Great song.
Rodney Matthews, one of the best picture discs you could ever buy.
Yeah.
So they're the best of the rest. Rush and UFO, both strong albums, just didn't make the 12.
Okay, excellent. I'm sure many of you will have differing opinions and opinions on whether or not one or two of those should have made our top 12. Please tell us in the comments, get involved, like, share, and give us a subscribe. So, Gaps, before we go on to the top 5, do you just want to roll off the 12 classics? Any other comments from you before we move into the top 5?
No, you've got 12 really, really strong albums there. I mean, we've covered off the others that could have made it in. Jam might have changed his opinion on one or two. The 3 I chose definitely wouldn't have been changed, and I would have picked at least 2 of those to go into my top 3 if one of you two weren't doing them. So
Me too.
I mean, it's just very, very strong. So I'm really looking forward to finding out which is the top 5.
Okay, excellent. Right, Jam, it beholds you to reveal the top 5.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. This was a very tight one, but so the official Tales from the PowerAge top 5 albums from 1981. We'll do it in reverse order as we always do. Gav, please. No. I mean, it's yes for Def Leppard in at number 5 with High and Dry. Unchaining their awesomeness. We'll definitely hear about it later as Van Halen smash their way in, number 4 with Fair Warning. It was them that set the spirit free. 1981, Saxon with Denim and Leather. Respectable number 3 in the official Tales from the PowerAge top 5. Injecting the venom with a 21-gun salute. It's AC/DC and their epic album For Those About to Rock at number 2. Which means that at number 1 in the official Tales from the PowerAge top 5 albums of 1981, here's an album for you. Yes, indeed. It's Whitesnake's Majestic. Come and get it in at number 1.
Thank you, Jam.
Well done, Jam.
I'm sure you'll have some different views on that, but I don't think anyone can disagree. They are 5 absolutely stomping albums. And if you're looking for records to buy on vinyl, you could go far worse than putting these down in a list of must-haves. These really capture the age. And there are a couple of albums here which are probably ahead of their time, to be fair. Absolutely brilliant. From Def Leppard to Whitesnake at number 1. Well done, DC. Well done, Mr. Coverdale. You've made it to our top. So if you're watching, Dave, please send us a signed copy of Come and Get It. We'd love that. I'm sure I'll send you the address through your Twitter account. So that's it. That's 1981. I hope you enjoyed that. We've got plenty more of these to come. As always, where to find us. Please subscribe and hit the house bell. We've mentioned that a few times. It really helps the algorithms and helps us keep it going. And we'd love it when we get extra subscribers each week. So if you can bring a bit of joy to our lives, please give us a subscribe. You can find us on Facebook on Tales from the PowerAge, on Twitter at TTFTPA, online on www.talesfromthepowerage.com. And please look out for us at lots of gigs that we'll be going to between now and the end of the year. So we'll see you soon, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care. Bye.
See you later, everyone.
Yeah. See ya.